In 1973, a man named Gerald Hoffman drove his family every Friday night to a place called the Golden Dragon on Route 9 in New Jersey. Red vinyl booths, a fish tank by the door, a lazy Susan that squeaked when you turned it. He ordered the same thing every single time, EGG Fu Young and a side of chow mein with the crunchy noodles. That dish is number 25 on this list. And Gerald's Golden Dragon closed in 1981. The building is a nail salon now. Hi, my name is Jason, and this is Lost Asian Foods. Number 25, Egg Foo Young. A dome of egg fried in a pool of hot oil until the edges went crispy and dark, stuffed with bean sprouts, scallions, and whatever protein the kitchen had on hand. Pork, shrimp, chicken? It did not matter. The egg held everything together. Then, the brown gravy went over the top. That thick, glossy cornstarch-thickened gravy pooled around the edges and soaked into the rice underneath. In every Chinese-American restaurant from Boston to Bakersfield in the 1970s, Egg Foo Young was on the menu. Always. You could set your watch by it. It occupied that reliable corner of the menu between the soups and the fried rice. Families ordered it without looking up. The kids loved it because it looked like a pancake. The parents loved it because it cost $3.50 and fed 2 people. Egg Foo Young is a dish with deep roots in Cantonese cooking, adapted, adjusted, and Americanized over 100 years of Chinese restaurant history in this country. The version your family ordered in 1974 was not the version made in Guangdong province. But it was real. It was made by real hands. Somewhere along the way, as menus modernized and Kung Pao chicken took over the cultural conversation, Egg Foo Young slipped off the page. Most people under 40 have never ordered it. Most people under 40 have never even seen it on a menu. That is the disappearance this list is about. Number 24, chop suey. Here is the thing about chop suey that nobody says out loud. It was never really Chinese, and everybody knew it, and nobody cared. A tangle of bean sprouts, celery, water chestnuts, bamboo shoots, and whatever protein was available, all stir-fried together in a light sauce and served over white rice or those crunchy noodles from a can. Never mind authenticity. It was comfort food. The name comes from the Cantonese sap suey, which literally means mixed pieces or miscellaneous leftovers. There are 17 different stories about how it ended up on American menus. None of them agree. One involves a diplomat. One involves a labor camp in California in 1870. One involves a cook who was annoyed at a late-night customer and threw everything together in spite. I like that last one. The truth is, chop suey became the face of Chinese food in America for most of the 20th century. By the 1950s, there were more chop suey restaurants in the United States than any other type of Chinese restaurant. By the 1970s, it was fading. By the 1980s, ordering chop suey made you look like you did not know what you were doing. The dish that had fed America for 80 years became unfashionable so fast it left a mark. If your grandmother ordered chop suey on date nights in 1962, she was eating something. Real or not, it was hers. Number 23. U Gu Gai Payen. Say the name out loud. Mu Gu Gai Payen. It sounds like something a cartoon character orders when they want to sound sophisticated. In Cantonese, it means mushroom chicken slice, which is exactly what it was. Sliced chicken breast, white button mushrooms, snow peas, water chestnuts, and bamboo shoots, all in a pale, delicate, almost translucent sauce. Light, mild, completely inoffensive. Mu Gu Gai Pan was the dish you ordered when you were not sure how spicy the kitchen ran. It was the safe choice, the dish you recommended to people who said they did not like Chinese food. And in doing so, it converted thousands of skeptics in church fellowship halls and corporate lunch orders across suburban America throughout the 1970s. The sauce. was white and clean. The vegetables were crisp. The chicken was tender. It asked nothing of you. Today, Mugu Gai Pan has nearly vanished from menus, replaced by dishes with more drama, more heat, more Instagram visibility. But for a decade, this quiet, modest mushroom and chicken plate was doing the quiet work of making Chinese food approachable to an entire generation of Americans who had never eaten with chopsticks in their lives. It deserves more respect than history has given it. Number 22. Beef chow mein, the crunchy noodle version. Not lo mein, not the soft noodles tossed in sauce. The other one. The version where a nest of deep-fried noodles sat on the plate like a golden haystack, and the beef and vegetable mixture was spooned over the top so the noodles softened on the bottom and stayed crisp on the edges. That contrast, crunchy and soft in the same bite, was the whole experience. In the 1970s, a can of La Choy chow mein noodles sat in roughly 1 in every 3 American kitchen cabinets. The Chinese restaurant version was different, fresher. The noodles had more body. The sauce had more depth. The beef was sliced thin against the grain and velveted before it hit the wok, a technique that kept it impossibly tender. You took your fork, because a lot of people were still using forks, and you broke into the noodle nest and the whole thing collapsed into your plate, and you did not care because it tasted like the best meal of your week. This version of chow mein is mostly gone. What replaced it on most menus is the soft noodle version, the lo mein cousin that never required the drama of the haystack. Something was lost in that substitution. Something crispy and specific and worth mourning. Number 21. Wonton soup, the old way. 6 wontons in a clear broth. That was it. Each wonton was hand-folded. The fold mattered. A loose wonton fell apart in the broth and became something sad. A tight wonton held its shape. The filling stayed inside. The wrapper softened to a perfect silky chew without going to mush. In the back of every Chinese restaurant in 1975, somebody's grandmother was folding wontons. Not a prep cook hired last Tuesday. A grandmother. Her folding speed was something you could not teach and could not replicate with a machine. 40 wontons a minute, without looking down. In good versions of this soup, the broth was made from pork bones and dried shrimp and simmered for hours until it tasted like something that had been cooking since the previous administration. A little sesame oil on top, a few strands of egg, a scallion. The wonton soup that shows up at American Chinese restaurants today is technically the same dish, but the broth is different. The folding is different. The grandmother in the back is different. Or gone entirely. The old version tasted like someone cared enough to start cooking yesterday. The new version is fine. Fine is not the same thing. Number 20. Sweet and sour pork with the radioactive sauce. I am going to say something that food critics will not say. That neon red sweet and sour sauce, the one that was so aggressively orange red, it looked like it was producing its own light source, was delicious. I know, it was not authentic. It was probably 60% maraschino cherry juice and 40% ketchup, and a kind of optimism that only exists in 1973. But it was delicious. The pork was battered and fried until it had a crust that crackled when you bit into it. The pineapple chunks were from a can, and they did not apologize for that. The green pepper added color more than flavor, but its presence was important. It was visual punctuation. The whole dish arrived in a divided metal serving bowl, the sauce in one half and the pork in the other, so the crust stayed crispy until you combined them at the table. That architecture was intentional. That was engineering. The modern sweet and sour pork has better sauce. It is more balanced, more nuanced, more correct. It is also less fun. And sometimes fun is the point of dinner. Number 19. Lobster Cantonese, A whole lobster, cracked and stir-fried in a sauce of fermented black beans, ginger, garlic, and ground pork, finished with egg to give the sauce a soft, silky thickness. This was the special occasion dish, the dish you ordered when somebody at the table was celebrating something real. A promotion, a graduation, a birthday with a 0 at the end. Lobster Cantonese was not cheap. It was not supposed to be cheap. It was the dish that announced this dinner mattered. In Chinatown restaurants in New York, San Francisco, and Boston throughout the 1960s and the 1970s, lobster Cantonese was a centerpiece. The lobster was kept alive in a tank in the front of the restaurant and selected by the diner. That freshness was the point. The sauce, black beans, and pork and egg and ginger was the kind of sauce that made you want to soak your rice in it for an embarrassing amount of time. Today, lobster Cantonese has largely disappeared from American Chinese menus. It requires live lobster, which is expensive. It requires technical skill. And it requires a diner willing to commit to the whole experience. The dish has been replaced by safer, cheaper proteins, and the celebration has moved somewhere else. Number 18. Subgum chow mein. Subgum comes from the Cantonese sapgam, meaning many ingredients. Shrimp, pork, and chicken, all in the same dish. The logic was abundance. One plate that contained everything. It was the option for the person at the table who could not decide. You want shrimp, and you also want chicken. So, the kitchen solves the problem. That everything at once approach was a specifically American Chinese invention. No one in Guangdong was making subgum chow mein. This dish was born in the negotiation between what Chinese cooks knew and what American diners wanted. It worked. People loved it. And then it became something that only appeared on older menus, in older restaurants, ordered by older customers who never checked the menu. Those restaurants are closing. Subgum went with them. Number 17. Pork fried rice. The real diner version. Not the version you make at home with leftover rice and soy sauce from a bottle. The version from the restaurant, the wok version. The one where the rice had been cooked the day before and sat in the refrigerator overnight, so every grain was separate and slightly dry. That is exactly what you want when you drop rice into a 500-degree wok with hot oil and eggs and char siu pork and frozen peas and a splash of soy sauce. Wok hei. That smokiness, that breath of the wok, the flavor that happens when wet ingredients hit an extremely hot curved steel surface. You cannot make that on a home stove in a non-stick pan. You cannot fake it. The Chinese restaurant pork fried rice of the 1970s had wok hei in every bite. The eggs were scrambled directly in the wok around the rice, so they broke into shreds rather than chunks. The scallions went in last. The whole thing took 4 minutes from raw ingredients to plate. The version at most American Chinese restaurants today is fine. The version from a wok run by someone who has been cooking on that same wok for 20 years is different. That version is a small miracle. Number 16. Almond chicken, fried chicken cutlet, sliced and fanned over white rice, covered in a white gravy and finished with toasted almond slivers. That was almond chicken. It sounds almost aggressively simple, and it was. The white gravy, made from chicken stock thickened with cornstarch and seasoned with just enough to matter, was better than it had any right to be. And the almonds were toasted, not raw, not from a bag of salted cocktail nuts. Toasted. That distinction changed everything. Almond chicken was a Midwest and Mid-Atlantic phenomenon. It dominated menus from Ohio to Maryland in the 1970s. In Detroit, it was practically a civic institution. Families ordered it for children because there was nothing threatening about it. No visible vegetables that kids would pick around, and no sauce with any heat. Just chicken and gravy and something crunchy on top. It was Chinese food with the training wheels on, and it converted a generation of Midwestern families who then became confident enough to order Mugu Gai Pan, and eventually a decade later, Kung Pao chicken. Almond chicken was the gateway. Give it its credit. Number 15. Pepper steak. Thin slices of flank steak with green bell pepper, white onion, and tomato, all in a brown sauce with enough black pepper to announce itself before the plate hit the table. Pepper steak was the dish that proved Chinese restaurants could cook beef in a way that American steakhouses were not doing. The velveting technique, coating the beef in a cornstarch and egg white mixture before cooking, produced a tenderness that defied the price point. You were paying $6 for something that ate like it should cost $15. The sauce was savory. The peppers stayed slightly crisp, the onion softened just enough. The tomato went in at the last second so it held its shape. Pepper steak appeared on menus under different names depending on the restaurant. Beef with green peppers, green pepper steak, steak cow. But the experience was the same. American beef. Chinese technique. A brown sauce that made you clean the plate. As Sichuan food and Hunan food and Cantonese seafood became the markers of sophistication in the 1980s, pepper steak got left behind. It was too simple, too American, too 1974. It has never come back, and that is a shame. Number 14. Shrimp and lobster sauce. No lobster. The name is a trap, and every person who has ever ordered it has had the same moment of confusion. There is no lobster in shrimp and lobster sauce. There never has been. The sauce, ground pork, fermented black beans, egg, garlic, and broth, is called lobster sauce because it is the same sauce traditionally used to cook lobster. It is the sauce of lobster, not a sauce made from lobster. That does nothing to make it any less delicious. The shrimp were large. The sauce was silky from the egg. The ground pork distributed itself through the liquid like a rumor. You spooned it over rice, and the rice became something else entirely. Shrimp and lobster sauce was one of the most ordered dishes in New York Chinatown throughout the 1960s and 70s. It was on tables at every family-style banquet on Canal Street. It crossed over into every Chinese-American restaurant within a generation. And then, the name confused one too many people, and the dish quietly stepped back. Nobody talks about shrimp and lobster sauce anymore. Nobody knows to order it, which is a loss that goes beyond the plate. Number 13. Barbecued spare ribs, the red ones. Pork ribs stained deep red from hoisin, soy, honey, 5-spice, and red food coloring, which did a lot of the aesthetic work. They arrived with a paper frill on the bone end if the restaurant was feeling formal, or piled naked on an oval platter if it was not. You picked them up with your hands. That was the only way. The meat pulled off in thick, lacquered strips. The char on the outside edges gave you something sweet and slightly bitter at the same time. They came as an appetizer. They should have been the entire meal. The table that shared ribs before the main course arrived was already happy. What replaced them was technically better and somehow less satisfying. Number 12. Warsu Gai. Warsu Gai is almond boneless chicken's more interesting cousin, and almost nobody outside of Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois knows it exists. A whole chicken breast is pounded thin, battered, fried golden, sliced diagonally, and fanned over crispy fried rice noodles, covered in a clear brown gravy and topped with sliced almonds. It was architecture. You did not casually assemble Warsu Gai, you built it. The gravy was poured at the table so the customer could see the construction before it softened. If you grew up in Detroit or Cleveland, you know exactly what this is, and you have spent your entire adult life explaining it to people from other states, unsuccessfully. The restaurants that made it are almost all gone. Number 11. Beef with oyster sauce. Thinly sliced, velveted beef, broccoli, and real oyster sauce. 3 components. The oyster sauce was the thing. Not the sweet, thick, ketchup-adjacent version that fills the cheap bottles. The real version, made from actual oyster reduction, tasted like the ocean had decided to become a condiment. The broccoli was blanched separately and added at the last moment, so it stayed green and snapped when you bit into it. The execution required a woki, a high flame, and a cook who knew the difference between 30 seconds and 45 seconds on that heat. Those 15 seconds were the difference between a great plate and a soggy one. By the 1980s, beef with broccoli had replaced it. Same dish, different name, slightly different soul. Number 10. Chicken chow mein with the crispy noodles. The can of crunchy chow mein noodles on the table before you ordered. That was the signal. You were at a real Chinese-American restaurant, like bread at an Italian restaurant, like chips at a Mexican restaurant. You ate half the can before the food arrived and then ate all the food anyway. The chicken chow mein itself was a mountain. Bean sprouts, celery, water chestnuts, mushrooms, chicken breast, a light brown sauce, served over crispy noodles, with more crispy noodles on top. The table was covered in noodles by the end. Your jacket had noodles on it. Nobody cared. Filling, communal, slightly chaotic. $4. That combination is harder to achieve than any tasting menu chef will ever admit. Number 9. Beef tomato. Sliced beef, tomato wedges, and onion in a brown sauce with a little sugar to balance the acid. It was a dish so simple it barely required a recipe. The tomatoes were ripe, added to the wok at the last possible moment so they released their juice into the sauce without falling apart completely. You got tomato that was warm and yielding but still held its shape. Combined with velveted beef and a slightly sweet brown sauce, beef tomato was one of those dishes that sounds too simple to bother with and then makes you regret every meal you ever ate without it. By the 1990s, it was gone from most menus. Nobody replaced it with anything better. They just removed it. Number 8. Subgum wonton. Wonton soup, but upgraded. Same clear broth. Same hand-folded wontons. The subgum part meant the soup also contained shrimp, chicken, pork, mushrooms, water chestnuts, bamboo shoots, and snow peas. The most generous soup on the menu. The kind where by the third bite you realized this was the whole meal and you did not need anything else. In some restaurants it arrived in a covered tureen. The lid came off at the table. The steam rose and for a moment the table went quiet because a bowl of soup had accomplished something that conversations sometimes cannot. Nobody flew to New York for subgum wonton. Those Tuesday night dishes are always the first to disappear. Number 7. Pineapple chicken. Yes, I know. Before you type anything in the comments, hold that thought. Pineapple chicken is not a traditional Chinese dish. The pineapple comes from a can. The sauce is sweet. It has no historical legitimacy and no culinary complexity. Yet it was on every single Chinese-American restaurant menu in America through the 1970s. Families loved it, and I am putting it on this list. Chunks of fried chicken, canned pineapple, bell pepper, and a sweet sauce with a little ginger. Children ordered this. Adults ordered it for their children and then ate most of it themselves. Pineapple chicken disappeared when it became unfashionable to admit you liked sweet food at a Chinese restaurant. That is a cultural loss, disguised as a taste improvement. Number 6. Butterfly shrimp. Each shrimp was split down the back, opened flat, battered thin, and fried so the tail fanned out like wings. The presentation was the whole point. A plate of butterfly shrimp looked like it had taken more effort than it had, which is its own kind of skill. The batter was light, almost tempura, but not quite, with a crunch that did not overpower the shrimp inside. It was served with duck sauce, a sweet apricot condiment in little plastic cups, somehow addictive in a way I cannot fully explain. For certain 8-year-olds in the 1970s, butterfly shrimp was the only reason they agreed to come to the restaurant. That 8-year-old is in their 50s now. The menu has moved on without them. Number 5. 4 seasons. ZG chow. 4 proteins. 4 textures. 1 plate. Shrimp, chicken, beef, and pork. Each cooked separately and arranged in quadrants so you could see the division clearly. A dish built to demonstrate range. To say, this kitchen can cook anything, here is the proof in 4 sections. The shrimp overcooked in 30 seconds. The beef needed the highest heat. Getting all 4 right simultaneously required real skill and real attention. In Cantonese cooking, 4 seasons represents completeness, nothing missing. That idea translated even when the proteins came from a walk-in refrigerator in New Jersey. The idea of wholeness always translates. 4 seasons disappeared when sharing plates became fashionable and having everything on one plate did not. Number 4. Pressed duck. It is the most technically demanding dish on this list and the one that has disappeared most completely. A whole duck, marinated, steamed, pressed flat under weight, then deep fried until the skin went to crackling glass. The pressing removed excess fat, so every surface hit the oil evenly. No soggy parts. No undercooked parts. The skin shattered when you touched it. Pressed duck appeared on Cantonese menus in America from the 1930s onward. By the 1970s, it was already rare. By the 1980s, it was gone. What replaced it was Peking duck, which is magnificent, but which is a different animal entirely. Pressed duck was ours, and it did not survive. Number 3. Chicken almond ding. Diced chicken, diced vegetables, whole toasted almonds, light sauce. The key word is diced. Everything was cut to the same small cube, so every single bite contained every single component. You never got a bite of just chicken. You got everything at once, every time. The almonds were always whole and always toasted. Never sliced. Never raw. The sauce was pale and clean, and just enough. This was a lunch dish. The thing you ordered when you had 45 minutes and did not want to feel heavy through the afternoon. The word ding means diced pieces in Cantonese. A whole category of dishes was built around that one knife skill. The market for it is gone. Number 2. Lobster sauce on everything. Not shrimp and lobster sauce specifically, but the sauce itself. Ground pork, fermented black bean, egg, and garlic. Kept warm in a pot at the back of the kitchen at all times because a good Chinese-American restaurant always had lobster sauce ready. On vegetables, on tofu, on plain white rice when the plate needed saving. The ground pork gave it body. The black beans gave it depth. And something funky in the best possible sense. The egg gave it silk. The garlic gave it presence. You could eat it on plain rice and be completely satisfied in a way that most composed dishes cannot achieve. When menus modernized and cleaner preparations became fashionable, the lobster sauce pot went off the heat. The rice has been less interesting ever since. Number 1. The chow mein sandwich. I need you to stay with me on this one because I understand that what I'm about to describe sounds impossible. In Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts, there was a sandwich, a toasted hamburger bun with a ladle full of chicken chow mein poured directly onto it and a bun placed on top. That was it. You ate it with a fork because you had no choice. The chow mein made the bun wet within 30 seconds, and the whole thing made no structural sense and nobody cared. It was born in the mill towns of New England in the early 20th century, where Chinese-American cooks fed workers who could not afford a full meal, a compromise between 2 cultures on a single plate. Today, it exists in approximately 4 places on Earth. Rhode Island. People will fight you about this sandwich. They are right to. Make one of these this week, just one. Find a recipe for egg foo young and make the brown gravy from scratch. Order pepper steak from the oldest Chinese restaurant in your city and see if they still make it the way they used to. Call your parents and ask them what they ordered on Friday nights. Ask them if they remember the restaurant. Ask them if they remember the fish tank by the door. Because these dishes were never just food. They were Friday nights. They were the lazy Susan that squeaked. They were the fortune cookie that said something that seemed meaningful when you were 9 years old. They were the paper umbrella in someone's drink that ended up on the table. They were the family sitting around something they did not fully understand and loving it anyway. And behind every one of those meals was a kitchen run by people who had crossed everything to be there, who had given up the food they actually wanted to cook so they could make the food the neighborhood would come back for. Those kitchens deserve to be remembered. Those dishes deserve to be named. Leave a comment and tell me which one your family ordered. Tell me if anyone remembers the chow mein sandwich. Tell me if your grandmother had a regular order, because somewhere on this list is a dish that belongs to your Friday nights, and a meal someone made from a walk at 11 o'clock at night so your family could pick it up on the way home is worth more than any dish on any tasting menu in any city in the world. These recipes deserve to live.